Hi, this is Sean D'Souza, and you're listening to the 3-Month Vacation Podcast. This podcast isn't some magic trick about how to work less. Instead, it's about how to really enjoy the work that you do and to enjoy your vacation time. Hi, I'm Sean D'Souza, and you're listening to the 3-Month Vacation. You've probably never heard of Ben Curtis. Ben's a client and a self-described fan. In an email addressed to both Renuka and me, here's what he wrote. I'm a massive fan. I listen to all your podcasts and I reread sections and chapters of the Brain Audit, and I do it over and over. I'm constantly applying your tools in every way possible. I'm using your advice and information in exactly the way you hoped people would from your book. I also purchased the applications for the Brain Audit, and I'm constantly using those tools for headlines, marketing material, and websites. But it's all not hunky-dory. Ben also has a bit of a bone to pick with me in particular. And here's how he puts it. I'd like to make a suggestion, recommendation, or at least make you aware of something when you're writing content. I just wish there was more relatable or direct content for people who have products. That's what I do, and many other people have products too. I have products to sell either online or in retail stores or both. And Ben doesn't stop there. He continues. He says, in the Brain Audit, there were 2 examples, Website Strategy Workshop and the Allergy Clinic. It was very difficult for me to try and write with the product in mind when there were only 2 examples and both were services. And then he goes on telling me about how he can't find any product-related business. And he looked at over 15 examples and there wasn't a product-based business. So Ben's got a point, don't you think? Well then, it's time to correct this grievous mistake, because it gives us a chance to dive deeper into the Brain Audit. Well, here we go. Let's look around the room and look for some products and play a game of I Spy. So what do I spy? It starts with the letter M. It's a product, and yes, it's a microphone. Except, I already have 6 microphones. I already own 6 microphones, so why bother with another one? Let's find out, shall we? In this series, we'll go through the stages of how to get and to keep the attention of your client when you're selling products. In stage 1, we'll list all the benefits and we'll narrow down our problem. In stage 2, we not only drive that problem, but the consequences of ignoring that problem. In stage 3, we'll do an instant check. After we've gone through the first 2 stages, we'll see, wait a second, we didn't want these products because, of course, these products have been randomly chosen from my room. Has that desired level gone up? Has it gone up just a little bit? Has it gone up a lot? Let's find out. Let's start out with 3 different products. As you'd expect, I spy something with my eye, and we know it starts with the letter M as in microphone. That takes us to stage 1, where we list all the benefits and narrow down our problem. Microphone. Let's look at the microphone that I recently bought. What problem could it possibly solve? Why buy yet another microphone when there are plenty of them already lying around? As you're probably aware, every product solves many problems, and since we're on that trend of reasoning, every product must have many features and many benefits. So if you look at a product, you can list the benefits and the features of the microphone. Let's start out with the weight. The weight is just 10 grams. That's about 0.35 ounces. That's pretty light, don't you agree? The usage time on a single charge is 6 hours. That solves an important problem too. You don't have to change batteries all the time. The operating temperature of the microphone, it goes from minus 10 degrees centigrade to 50 degrees. And even if you don't know where centigrade sits, it's freezing cold, below freezing, all the way up to really hot temperatures. And finally, it has an operating distance of 65 feet or 20 meters. That is quite a distance. So what problem does it solve? Let's say you're keen to shoot videos of yourself as a speaker. There are 2 reasons why you need to capture the event. The first reason would be to capture the information, maybe for a showreel for your clients. The second reason would be to see and to hear yourself, so you can improve your technique. However, when it came to cordless mics, you always needed a slightly sophisticated setup. But imagine a microphone that is so small that's just a little clip-on. And once you have it on, you can be a whopping 65 feet away. Now from 65 feet, you can record perfect video, but it's the audio that's a problem. And this is a Bluetooth mic that frees you from the cords and from cables. That's it. No cords, no cables. But what about the other points? What about the other weight, the extended battery time, the ability to work under crazy weather conditions? They're all important, but you have to pick one problem. If you want to get the attention of the client, then you have to pick one problem. It's not like we're chucking away all the rest of the points. We can't just have all of them up in lights together. Only one problem needs to be chosen. Think of it as a movie. There's the hero and there's the supporting cast. That problem, the biggest problem, is the hero. All the rest, they're the supporting cast. We're not getting rid of it. We'll bring it back. But we have to have a hero, and the hero here is no cords, no cables. And there's a reason why this problem speaks directly to those who are recording video, those who are speaking at events. Because what they can do is walk across the room. They could walk across the bridge if necessary, and then record perfectly from the other side. It's like a dream come true. It's the big problem. And this microphone, this Bluetooth microphone, it solves the problem perfectly. So that's example number 1. Let's take another example. Daniel Smith watercolors. Now this example is interesting because I've never used these watercolors. Back in 2010, I went for a watercolor class, and my teacher, Ted, he told me to do one small watercolor every day. I'm a model student, so I painted pretty much every day, and I've done about 2,500 drawings since then over the past 8 years, yet not one of them was with Daniel Smith. My goal today was to find out why I should bother with Daniel Smith. Why should I use these watercolors when I already have several tubes with a rival company called Winsor & Newton? And I like to buy a lot of stuff so that I have it in advance. So I have so many tubes that I'd be using those tubes for at least 2 or 3 years from now. And yet, here we are looking for a problem to solve with a whole new brand of paints. This diversion brings up an essential fact of customer behavior. In a majority of situations, clients or prospects, they may not have a problem. Right now, I'm reasonably happy with my paints, but that doesn't mean that I'm not on the lookout for something different. When we as sellers of a product fail to get a point across, that's because we're not being clear, we're not being succinct, and the customer is unsure why they should go ahead with buying our product or service. Which is what Daniel Smith colors tend to do when you do your research. But here's a short post online, and here's what it says. It says, I love Daniel Smith. What I like about the paint is the pigment load. the ease of re-wetting in my palette, the ease of handling on the paper. Every tube I bought is fresh and soft and well mixed. And it's mixed with the binder. There is no separation into binder and pigment. And this person goes on and he or she says, I love their range of colors. No other paint maker offers such a huge number of colors. It seems like Daniel Smith is always looking for new colors to add. That's a client description. That is something that you read online. And you have the bits and pieces needed for a problem. So let's look at the features and benefits that are mentioned in that particular post. The first thing is ease of pigment load. That's a bit technical, but from what I can figure out is that the paint sits nicely on the brush. The ease of re-wetting, this is a nuisance with watercolors. They tend to dry up into a hard rock, and re-wetting is a definite benefit. Ease of handling on paper. That's a vague description, but we'll take all the description that we can handle. Well mixed with the binder. No separation of binder and pigment. That's pretty good. That's a winner. It's technical. I don't know what it means, but that's good. And finally, an astounding range of colors, especially for those always on the lookout for another shade. Once again, we have to pick, and most of the time, the pick will be based on the target profile. And let's assume this target profile is an artist that's always on the lookout for new shades, new textures. And so this range of colors, that's a big solution. And the opposite of that solution, the opposite of the benefit is, ta-da, the problem. Daniel Smith has a massive 252 colors, including the Prima Tex, as well as 48 luminescent, pearlescent, and interference colors. I had to read that out. The problem is evident, isn't it? With the paints that I've been using, I've more or less restricted myself to a range of shades. Daniel Smith seems to have gotten me out of that stupor. It's caused me to investigate a whole range of colors that I've never looked at, never considered before. In effect, it's created a problem where none existed. We've looked at two products, the microphone, we've looked at Daniel Smith watercolors. Let's go to a third product, like the t-shirt that I'm wearing. I'm a big fan of graphic design, and there's probably no greater joy than to walk into a t-shirt store when on vacation. It doesn't matter where we are, Vancouver, Tokyo, Sardinia, I'm always on the lookout for new, well-designed t-shirts. Yet for the past 3 years or so, I've more or less given up buying t-shirts while away from home. It's a strange phenomenon, don't you think? And it gets stranger because the design, the t-shirt brand that I'm wearing right now, it doesn't quite suit my design appetite. Even so, I've made the change to the Icebreaker brand. And the reason why I made this leap is because it solves a problem. It solves a precise problem, and that problem is that it doesn't stink. It's summer here in New Zealand in January, and summers here are hot. They're really hot. And with heat comes sweat and body odor, which means that you have to get yourself some sort of deodorant or wipe rubbing alcohol or vinegar or hydrogen peroxide onto your underarms. If you want to save yourself the trouble of any of these weird and wonderful methods, then all you have to do is wear an icebreaker. That's it. A t-shirt. And there's no odor. You can wear the t-shirt for a day, no odor. You wear it for 10 days, still no odor. You want to try it for 40 days? Still no odor. You're getting the point, aren't you? As you can quickly see, Icebreaker solves a problem that you didn't know you had in the first place. I wouldn't go so far as to say that all my t-shirts are Icebreaker, but let's just say that they've taken the whole fun part out of my vacations. I haven't bought a new t-shirt on vacation in over 3 years. I ask people to send me vouchers for Icebreaker for my birthday, or if they want to give me a gift. I use Icebreaker in my presentations on dartboard pricing at events. I can't even tell you what a killjoy this company has been for me, consistently solving my problem. And there you have it. Random picks right in the room with me. A set of paints from Daniel Smith watercolors. A t-shirt range called Icebreaker that wasn't even on my radar for a long time. And then a microphone, the 6th or 7th microphone that I own, just because it solves the problem of no chords and no mess. And of course, we could go on and on. There's a type of cream in the room, there are shoes, there's a language course, there are computers, 3 computers actually. And all of these solve a problem. But where do we go digging for that problem? The reason a product exists is because it solves a problem. If it solves a problem, it has benefits, it has features. And that's where we go digging. We may not be clear which problem we need to pick. So you've got a list of benefits, benefit 1, benefit 2, benefit 3, benefit 4. And you might not know, okay, which one will the client pick? But that's what a target profile interview is about. And there's more about that in the brain audit. We won't go into that right now. But if we were to do a simple exercise and we were to go downtown or to go to any store and randomly pick up a product, there on the side of the packaging are all the features and benefits. And that's what we call the solution in the brain audit. And the opposite of that solution is the problem. As you'd expect, an Icebreaker t-shirt will happily tout all of its benefits, but it's best to stick to one that's the lead actor. And then you let all the other problems take a secondary role. They're the supporting cast. And once we have our problem, you know what the brain audit recommends, don't you? It's time for consequences. A problem is a problem, but it's not quite as big a problem unless there are consequences. But what are consequences and how do we use them with the marketing of our product? Let's find out. Let's find out in stage 2, the consequences of ignoring the problem. Imagine you're driving down the road and in the corner of your eye you see flashing red and blue lights. What do? You slow down, don't you? You're aware that somewhere in the vicinity there are cops and there is no point in flooring the accelerator. That's how the brain works. It senses a problem and immediately all other thoughts need to be subdued. The focus is almost exclusively on the problem. However, to stay in that state for too long would be counterproductive. So once the cops are out of sight, you and we tend to go back to our normal behavior. When clients are buying our products or our services, the problem gets their attention, but it's not enough. Once the problem is in front and center, there's the risk of the client going down their own path. And to give you an analogy, it's a bit like spotting a cop car on the highway and then slowing down. Then you encounter a sign that says, "No cop car for the next 300 miles, guaranteed." Without the consequences, the attention wavers quite a bit. You've got the attention of your audience, but now you have to keep that attention with the consequences. So what are the consequences of not having an easy-to-use Bluetooth in the microphone? If you've ever fiddled with a wired microphone, you know exactly what a pain it can be. The cords and the cables run all over the place. Someone trips over the cords and cables, or at the very least, they need to be taped down. And that's great if you're in the sound business, because as disaster hits, you have option B in place. However, as a small business owner, you're hoping for one take. You want to get your video on YouTube, or you want to record that seminar you're giving. That's one take. And in most cases, there's no going back. With that Bluetooth microphone, a simple phone can record the video from anywhere in the room and then capture extremely high quality audio. Without audio, even the sharpest video is useless, you know that. And that's why a Bluetooth microphone is so very critical. What we've done there is we brought out the problem and then we drove the consequences. Just because you brought up a problem in your headline or speech doesn't mean that the clients get the point. There's no doubt they're paying attention, but unless you bring out the consequences, unless you drive deeper, there is a good chance of them bypassing or at least not valuing the product to the fullest extent. This is a bit like staying on topic, and the consequences underline what is being said. We're not trying to cover all the problems that the product solves. If anything, you have to be careful to stay on target. When I was writing about the microphone above, I was tempted to talk about the lightness factor, how it clips on, how it lasted for 6 hours. And it took all of my focus to stay on topic of no cords, no cables. Sure, you have these other points, these benefits and features. On your sales page, in your sales pitch, you can bring it up later. But first you have to nail down the problem. Then you have to make sure that you underline it with the consequences. And this is to the exclusion of everything else. And the consequences matter. Take, for example, another product like dartboard pricing. This is a book series that we sell on the Psychotactics site. When you look at the sales page, it's clear that the problem, that biggest problem, is about losing clients if you choose to raise prices. That message is clear, but just letting that headline do all the work, that's a mistake. The consequences have to come in quickly. And here's what the page reads like. It goes like this. How do you systematically raise prices without losing customers? So that's your headline. And then you drive home the consequences. Is it possible to raise prices and still keep customers? And how do you keep those costs going up and away and still get those customers to come back? It doesn't stop there. It goes on to how we all undercharge. It says no matter what our business is, we all undercharge for our products, for our services, and yet at this very moment, there are others in our field that charge a lot more for what seems like a similar offering to us. We know that we should increase our prices, but we can't bring ourselves to take that leap. It goes on and on and on until it finishes. And there is a story that explains the consequence of not being able to increase prices. And it talks about a copywriting course in 2006. And so what's happening is in a couple of paragraphs or 2 or 3 paragraphs, we are underlining the problem with the consequences. The consequences, they put a spotlight on the problem. But because it creates agitation, it also sets up the client for the solution. So you have problem, consequences, solution. As you can read or have read in the brain audit, the problem shows up, then we go to the solution. But sitting smack in the middle of them is the big consequence or consequences that need their share of spotlight. And when we look at our examples like Daniel Smith colors, we realize that we can drive home the consequences of not having enough shades or the precise shade, or with Icebreaker, having to put on some deodorant, which is really a chemical, or vinegar, just to get rid of the body odor and the heat. And it's only when these consequences are driven deep that we're ready for the next stage, which is the solution. In fact, we're not just ready, we're hankering for that solution at this stage. So that's where we are right now. You have the problem, you have the consequences. And we have finished 2 parts of this podcast. Let's go to the 3rd part. In the first part, we looked at the problem and how to find the problem in the benefits. The second part, we looked at the consequences. And in the 3rd part, we're going to do an instant check. We didn't need a microphone. We didn't need watercolors, and we probably didn't need another t-shirt. Do you feel slightly differently about these topics right now? That's the difference between having a whole bunch of problems in your headline, trying to cover everything, versus having a single problem and then driving home the consequences of ignoring that problem. The proof of the pudding is almost always in the eating. If you feel that you need the products above, then the brain audit has started to work its magic. We're not done, of course. There are other bags of the brain audit, other elements of the brain audit that need to be covered as well, which is the target profile, the objections, the testimonials, risk reversal, uniqueness. All of that needs to be covered as well. And these bags, these 7 red bags, they need to be taken off the conveyor belt. And you'll know what I mean by this when you read the brain audit or if you've read the brain audit. However, what we've done here is we've gotten off to a great start. And more importantly, we found out that products, physical products, digital products, they don't differ that much from services. In fact, we just have to look at one thing to figure out the problem, one thing to figure out the corresponding consequence. What is that one thing? Let's find out in the summary, shall we? We covered 3 things in this series. In stage 1, we listed the benefits. And we listed the benefits to narrow down that problem. In stage 2, we saw the consequences of ignoring the problem. In stage 3, we tested whether our desire level had gone up even though we technically didn't need any of those products. That's what we covered in the podcast. But what is the one thing that you could do today? What you need to do is create a list of benefits. Look around your room, pick on that lampshade you bought. What are the benefits of that particular lampshade? The bookshelf in the corner, does it have features and benefits? What about the bottle of wine that's on your desk? Wait, you have a bottle of wine at work? Anyway, all the stuff around you is possibly there for a reason. You can make your work a little easier by heading over to Amazon.com because you won't have to hunt down the features and benefits. It's all there in the packaging. All packaging has a list of bullets, benefits, features. However, this exercise is where you hunt down stuff in your office or Amazon or just about anywhere. And it shows you that there is no real difference between a product or service or training. They all have features, they all have benefits, they're all solutions. And one of those points is going to need a flip. You're going to have to take one of those benefits and turn it into the problem, which then takes us to that point of consequences. If you don't stick with the consequences, it's unlikely that the client will continue to pay attention. In many cases, the client may already feel the consequences. For instance, roof tiles are missing and a torrent of water is pouring in. They feel the consequences. But in a lot of situations, you have to drive home those consequences. So not to go away from the point, go and look for bullets, look for benefits, look for features, whatever you want to call it, and then flip one of them. And that's how you get to your problem. And that brings us to the end of the podcast. You can use the brain audit. You can use it on products. You can use it on services. You can use it on training. It has the same effect. Try it out today. You'll see how effectively it works. And that almost sounded like a bit of a commercial. So let's go and find out what's happening in psychotactics land, shall we? Two big things happening, and both of them relate to the article writing course. So the article writing course has both the home study and the live version. What is the live version? The live version is where I walk you through a daily assignment and then I critique your daily assignment, and you have groups and you have all of this stuff online. Very small group, maybe 5 to 7 people. So it's not this frustrating thing of having to deal with other people. You'll be amazed at what kind of people we get at Psychotactics. They're all extremely friendly, extremely helpful. I think it's because of the filters that we put in place. So that's the live version, but you can get the home study version as well. And the live version will go on sale on the 20th of May and the home study on the 15th of March. So you have to decide which one you want to do. Both of them are exceptionally good, and you can find that out for yourself. The thing about it is that you can get some goodies, and if you go to psychotactics.com/AW goodies, you will get a whole bunch of goodies, and you can see how your article writing will improve at this point in time. So that's psychotactics.com/AW goodies, and that sets you going. You don't have to pay anything. You're just on this list where you get the goodies. That's the first thing. The second thing is later in the year, we've got the Houston workshop. We haven't really started to sell it. We are still talking about it on the podcast. We haven't found a venue yet, but that'll happen. If you already have some place where we could have a workshop, it doesn't have to be downtown. It could be pretty much anywhere, as long as it's a nice place. There are some restaurants, and it can have 15 people. So why 15 people? Because we don't do workshops like other people. What they call workshops is a whole bunch of people thrown in a room looking at slides. No, that's not how it works. This landing page workshop, not landing page workshop. This landing page workshop will show you how to write the landing page so that you can write it for yourself or you can write it for a client. And, we're going for it in 3 days. This is kind of the impossible dream for copywriters. It's an impossible dream for small business owners. You have a product, you have a service, you have to sell it. 3 days, that's incredible. You'll find out how we do it at Psychotactics and how you can do it yourself. And the proof of the pudding, as I said earlier, is in the eating. So everybody leaving their room will have their sales page, at least one sales page. And, if you're ambitious, maybe more, then 3 days, that's it. So that's in October 28th, 29th, and 30th in Houston, Texas. To find out more, go to psychotactics.com/landing pages because it's a landing pages workshop. That's me, Sean D'Souza, saying bye for now. Bye-bye. Wait, I didn't talk about 5000 BC. I always talk about 5000 BC. Join us in 5000 BC. It's a great place. It's fun. You get to ask questions, and unlike other owners, you're not thrown at the mercy of everybody else. It's not everyone fend for themselves, everyone promote themselves. I'm there. I answer all your questions and answer them in enormous detail. Sometimes I'll write a bunch of articles just to answer your questions. Come to 5000 BC, a place where the motto is be kind, be helpful, or be gone. I know that joining another membership site seems crazy, but this is not just a membership site. You'll find out for yourself. Go to 5000bc.com and check it out for yourself. Still listening? When we got back from Goa, India, I had this problem with my finger. So this is my left hand, and I use this finger to draw, to write. And before we went, I had probably done about 100 to 150 postcards. So I wrote on every one of them, and I drew a cartoon on every envelope. And as you expect, each of that took about 30 to 40 minutes of writing and painting and stuff. And I did it all together, which meant that my finger was strained. It was interesting because when we went away for a month, it was rested. And when I got back, the pain came back. And I went to, let's not say the profession, but I went to someplace to fix it, and they couldn't fix it. And then I went for a coffee, and one of my friends told me, go to this acupuncturist. And when I went to the acupuncturist, she said, it's not a problem with your finger, it's a problem with your lower back. That was very interesting because the lower back muscles were pulling all the way up to the shoulder, which was pulling up to the forearm, which is pulling to the finger. And I find this extremely interesting from a marketing perspective. Of course, I think of everything from a marketing perspective. How that little small thing at the edge is connected to some big thing at the bottom. And that if we don't fix that big thing, then everything goes wrong all along the way. Anyway, I've been going for these acupuncture sessions and it's been quite cool. The finger almost fixed itself in the first day, and now 2 weeks later it is 95% back to where it was. And anyway, funny thing happened while I was there getting the acupuncture done. So I'm on my tummy and my face down, and I can't see who is speaking to me because they have assistants as well. And she said, have you ever had acupuncture before? And I said, yes, I did 17 years ago when I had RSI. And she said, did it work? And I said, yes, it did. And she said, who did that? Was it a Chinese person? And I said, no. And she said, was it Korean? I said, no. And then there was this gasp. It was like, it was a white person. That's amazing. And this is another marketing thing because we all have our perceptions, and I'm there on my tummy and laughing to myself. So that's just what's been happening. It's got nothing to do with what you've been listening to, but it's just what's happening in psychotactics land. And that's me, Sean D'Souza, saying bye for now. And my finger is on the mend. I'll be doing some more cartoons and sending you some more stuff to listen and read. Bye-bye.